Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm always running out of time when I'm doing this show because your questions are always my priority. But there's great topics I don't really get to expand upon on the show. So from now on, every week, right after the show, all of the different topics that I may not have gotten to, I'll be able to go into detail with you on my YouTube channel. So for example, this week, here's what you might have missed. The top hardest things that pet guardians like you try to teach their dog. The top 20. Let me give you an example. Number one of the hardest, and I actually wrote notes, which is pretty unusual for me. I actually wrote these down. How to walk with a dog without the dog pulling. Now, an example of this would be pretty simple. Most people, when they take their dog for a walk and the dog pulls, they pull back. And in reality, the more you pull, the more the dog pulls. So what happens, it becomes a tug of war. You may win if you have a Schnauzer, but you're not going to win if you have a Great Dane. So I want you to watch me carefully. If I were to lock my two hands together like this, and I were to pull my right hand this way, automatically my left hand fights against me. So just think of that as your dog's collar when you're pulling him. There's a much better way to do it. The best way to do it is you can try using a no-pull harness, which are fabulous, or what you can do is my original way of teaching a dog not to pull using the about face method. You can follow that on my website. I show how to do that about face method. That can help you an awful lot. So that's number one. Number two is, I wrote down toilet training. I was trying to be polite. Housebreaking. Here's the mistake people make. Is when the dog has an accident, they say to the dog, "No, bad dog, why did you go here?" And they'll take the dog over to that spot, and in reality, the dog's getting a lot of attention for being bad. Plus, at the same time, all you're doing is telling the dog it's bad to go here, so tomorrow I'll go here, 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 or here. You're not getting the point across that the act of going inside is what's wrong. So the best way to housebreak a dog, first of all, especially with a puppy, is make sure you have the puppy on a good, healthy diet. Make sure you feed him on a scheduled basis and give him water on a scheduled basis and walk him on a scheduled basis. Dogs do much better when they're being housebroken if you set up a schedule for them. And don't over-scold the dog if he does have an accident. It's a puppy or even an older dog that you may have rescued that had to go in a shelter. Don't over-scold. What you may want to try to do if it's a dog that's never been housebroken is if he does have an accident in the house, take some of his mess, put it outside, put some grass over it, and give him a walk there. But ideally, if you have a dog that has the occasional accident, here's a better way to do it. If the dog has an accident, clean it up with a good stain and odor remover. Then spend more time with the dog in that area, even put some of his toys down and some of his treats. Let's face it, dogs never pee or poop where they eat or where they sleep. So once he sees his food there, he'll get the idea. Number three, greeting people without jumping. Why do dogs jump up on people? They jump up on people simply because people are up here. Their eyes, their nose, their mouth, all those senses are so important to a dog, and they're up here. So one of the things I recommend is to spend a lot of time down on the dog's level. But the other thing I recommend is rather than yell at the dog, "No, stop jumping, wait till daddy comes home," all of that nonsense people do, take the time to educate your dog. If you can teach the dog to sit and stay, you can actually practice at the front door with people coming and going. It's not the dog's fault if he's misbehaving. It's generally the guardian's fault for not taking the time to explain what's really wanted from the dog's behavior. And the other one that's really kind of important is learning to chew toys, not furniture. Chewing is one of the most common problems I run into. There are four basic reasons. Obviously, teething, boredom, lack of exercise, and occasionally, but pretty rare in this country, would be something called pica. If you have a dog that's an excessive chewer, a couple of things you need to do. First, check his mouth to make sure there's no tooth pain, no gum pain, because as you've heard me say, somewhere in the neighborhood of 85 to 90% of dogs will develop some type of dental or periodontal disease by the time they're like, 3 or 4 years old. So make sure you have a good, healthy teeth and gums on your dog. That would be beneficial. The other thing is exercise. Exercise is critical. Let's face it. Tired dogs sleep. They don't chew. Make sure your dog has ample things that he can chew on, and don't try to replace it. For example, if your dog comes out with a shoe and you take the shoe away and you give the dog a toy of his own to play with, you just rewarded the dog for chewing your shoe. So use some common sense and think about it before you do it. Also, besides lack of exercise, mental stimulation, which is something I'm going to talk about a little bit later. In fact, I'm going to talk about it on the show, so you might be heard part of it, but I'll go into more depth in just a little bit on another YouTube post. So that's really important. Increased exercise, mental stimulation, check the mouth, and I suggest rotating the toys. How would you like to do the same thing or have the same toys over and over again to play with? Rotate them. Put down 6 on Monday, pick them up on Tuesday, put new ones down. Wednesday, put the old ones back down. It's kind of like giving a kid a toy and taking it away and giving it back a few days later. It's a brand new toy all over again. And the other thing that really is important. And then I'll cut it short here, but I want you to understand one of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to get their dog to come to them, the recall. How many times, and maybe you've done it as well, how many times have you seen people say, get over here, what did you do? Bad dog, come over here. When the dog comes, they yell at the dog. Well, if someone called me and was angry at me when I got there, I'm not coming so quickly either. So make sure every time you call the dog to you, it's a positive experience. Praise him. Even if you're chasing around the yard for 20 minutes to get him, when you do get him, a positive experience. Start off on a 6-foot lead, then you can graduate as well. By the way, a lot of these are really expanded upon if you check out my website, thepetshow.com. That's where I want to leave it right now. But I got a lot more we'll go over in the future. Remember, every week now, the day of the show, if you miss any of the topics or I run out of time because your calls are always so busy, you can always check out the YouTube channel. It'll always be there. Until next week, give your pets a hug and a kiss for you, and a special one for me.